morning. How are you?
Good. How are you? Sorry about that. It's so complicated over here.
All good. How was the morning event you had today where, similar topic, panel discussion? How did it go?
It was great. It was a great turnout. It was a ton of fun. Good questions. And I'm excited for yours.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I couldn't be happier. I put on my money bitch necklace today, getting really excited for it. Yes. So I am so excited. Now, people are going to trickle in throughout the hour as we're chatting. So if you see somebody jump in, no worries. We're going to keep everyone muted until the kind of like tail end, like 10-15 minutes left. That way agents can start to ask some key questions they might have. And obviously we want to make sure that they know, what are next steps and their steps to get this year going, getting into 2023, which I can't even wrap my mind around, trying to, because it's the best thing for us when it comes to planning and process, but still it's quite wild. We're going to get started. So I am so excited to have you here. For everyone that might not know or hasn't read or dug into Nicholle Overkamp, oh my goodness, she is just a total badass. So Nicholle is one of my favorite people. She is the CEO and founder of Wilcox Financial. She also runs PowHerhouse Money, which is a motivational and coaching organization. She's a business coach, a money coach, a podcast host, a author of bestseller Money Bitches, which is just always something I'm touting around and sharing with other women and just any entrepreneur or business owner that's looking to grow their dollars. So thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me today. I couldn't be happier. I mean, we'd have wine and that would be a thing we'd be doing, but it is
that would be all right. But no, I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Absolutely. So Nicholle, I know, you have plenty of clients of yours that are real estate agents, myself included, and you yourself have kind of gotten into the mix with owning your own investment properties, picking them up, flipping them, and turning that into that passive income opportunity. So before we jump into all of the things financial badassery that you do, for the agents on the call, tell us a little bit about what got you started in your own real estate investment journey.
Sure. So I actually got into the world of real estate because of my husband. I didn't understand it before. And when I started in the industry, a lot of the advisors around me they didn't get it. They didn't understand it. And they advised all their clients to don't put your money in real estate, put it all in the stock market, of course, because that's how they make their money. But be it as it may, my husband had nothing in the market and he had real estate. And so I got into it. I really started to learn quite a bit about it and love it. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. It absolutely deserves a place in your portfolio and in what you're doing. So he actually started investing and doing flips right out of high school. And instead of getting a normal job, he got a rental property, and so he's been doing it since then. And I learned a lot from him in doing that. And then over the years, we've together purchased a couple of rentals as well. So
awesome! I think that's a huge component for that diversification, right? And for real estate agents that don't own multiple properties, it's one of those opportunities where you're looking at it going, maybe it's just you're not receiving the right advice on how to do this well and how to protect those, those investments. So I think today's real topic is not about how realtors get rich buying properties. It's really about recession-proofing the business, right? Which is you turn on the news day in and day out right now, and they're talking about a contraction. They're talking about potential recession. No one wants to call it that yet. But let's start kind of with the basics, right? For everybody on the call, recession is this big looming word. Fill us in, kind of from your perspective of what this really means to folks. And is that an accurate statement for today's economic environment?
Yeah. So just to be clear, because I think there's been so much out there in the entertainment industry, if we will, right, about the headlines and what's really going on. And so the Webster's definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters where there's negative GDP growth, right? So by Webster's definition, we were in a recession, started in the summer of this year. Now, the United States, and how we measure our business cycle, and the National Bureau of Economic Research, they have a different definition for recession, and their definition is broad, not well defined, kind of like the IRS rules, right? But they say we're not in a recession unless there is a widespread reduction of economic activity or economic decline. right? So
Right.
that's why we're hearing these different things. Are we in a recession? Will it be deeper? Will it be terrible next year? And part of that, and why we've been, I think, dancing around some of this, is because of the metrics that they're measuring, and that being the strong-ish consumer, and the fact that there's an extremely low unemployment rate. There's 2 jobs open right now for every 1 person looking. That makes it really hard for unemployment numbers to go where the Fed wants to see them go. And then corporate earnings have been strong too. So it's kind of a wonky time. It feels weird. I think we're in for a volatile next couple of years. And so what's important to know is that even though it feels good, right? It doesn't
Right.
feel terrible. We can feel things shifting. We have to be prepared and ready for what might come.
Sure. I was kind of doing a little bit of prep for today's call. I saw Fidelity is really calling it like we're late cycle expansion, right? So like expansion hits, contraction comes in, and then it peaks, right? That's the cycle of the economy typically.
Mhm.
And so for anyone trying to follow this, or real estate agents almost looking to advise clients as well, like this becomes just some very difficult space and environment to navigate, right? Like, are we looking at the right information? Are we sharing the right information with our
Mhm.
clients? Which, we have that fiduciary responsibility, right? So making sure that we advise to a point where everyone feels comfortable, that feels like, okay, this is broad enough information, but without really putting anyone at risk. And that becomes
Mhm.
difficult when you're in a state of guiding others. So when you're looking at this, right, there's always that concept of there's never a bad time to buy real estate, which is something that every agent kind of falls back on. But for consumers out there, whether you're looking to sell the home and they're staying on market much longer, or you're seeing these interest rates rise, building that confidence, right, which is really difficult and something you do with your clients every day. What's that first step in that education process for them that you take to help them navigate this kind of, as you mentioned, like a volatile market, maybe for years to come, from
Mhm.
an economic standpoint in the housing market?
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking to that, the one thing to keep in mind is that recession doesn't mean like catastrophe, right? It just means the economy is slowing. And so, if the economy is slowing, how can we prepare? But then, how can we be resilient and outpace it, and be prepared for those things and find those pockets of opportunity? So, in the housing market and looking at educating the consumer, it's setting the expectations that the housing market is not crashing, right? Like there's a lot of fear mongering out there that's not happening, but what is changing or shifting is $100,000 over asking competitive bids, which isn't normal, you know.
Right, right.
And so it just feels like things are so different because we had such a chaotic period of time the last couple of years that really disrupted, I think, markets altogether. So it's always a good time to buy if the numbers work out. And so one thing that I think is important for realtors to consider, and when you're talking with your clients and educating them, is making sure that the buyer, has a good, solid understanding and education of their finances, what they can afford, and then helping them really understand the price point they should be shopping for. Because although it may not be as much as you, the realtor, would like, it will help you have a stickier sale. So what's gone up quite a bit is actually buyers pulling out of contracts, which means you just did a shit ton of work and didn't get paid on it. So that sucks. So a really good thing is taking a look at your client, making sure that they have the education around everything, not necessarily just taking what the mortgage broker says verbatim, and helping them vet that, or maybe linking them with a professional pro, and making sure that they have a good understanding of that lifestyle change, and then giving them some of those numbers to be aware of, or the new taxes that they'll be paying, insurance, things of that nature, and really just helping them make a decision that they feel really confident in, and knowing that, yeah, like they're not making any more land, they're not making more real estate. It is a good time to buy, but the numbers just have to be right, and it needs to work out from a planning perspective.
Yeah, I would say the buyer's consultation process now matters even more, right? So that like you're building that trust and rapport too, so that they can say, okay, I'm really comfortable talking about all of the different scenarios. Because it's fine to plan, for your best situation when the rates are like, if you were shopping around 6 months ago, versus today, like it's all going to change, but having someone you trust makes a huge difference. And I think you're right. Is um, the worst thing you can do is have put in so much effort into a sale for it to fall apart because they weren't prepared, educated, or they lost confidence in that process. And
Right.
so much of that is kind of bolstering confidence in what you do and being the expert sometimes, not in a fake it till you make it, because that's going to backfire on you in this industry.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, but really, like really having the confidence, and I think some of that comes with, to your point, having the right team around you, right? The right mortgage team that you work with, your preferred lenders, having the right CPAs to refer your client to be able to say, like, let's look at what this will mean for you next year with your taxes and how that cost will affect.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit, as a CEO within your own business, how do you look to find the right team that supports you as your business continues to grow? Like, who are you leaning on, and what does that look like as you vet folks for those types of roles for yourself?
Sure. So we are constantly interviewing professionals to be trusted resources for our clients, right? In my opinion, like it is part of our duty to do that and to vet these individuals, because a lot of times clients don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to ask, and they don't know the difference between someone who's good and great, right? So that's your job as the professional to do that. And so for us, we take it really seriously, and I'm constantly looking at who's the best of the best in the industry and how can I connect with them for my clients. And that goes for tax professionals, and CPAs have their own niches too. So that's another thing to be aware of. If you're working with an investor who has multiple businesses or LLCs or real estate properties, that is going to be very different than someone who is a young couple buying a house, right? They're going to potentially need a different accountant depending on that accountant's level of expertise. And then same with the attorneys. We have a number of attorneys we work with. There are attorneys specifically that only do real estate transactions, and they rock, they crush it. Those are the attorneys that you want on the real estate end, and then we've got, of course, a myriad of others that specialize in business law and everything else. And then, of course, lenders, realtors, and all of that, because at the end of the day, we are all professionals who are promising to deliver our client an elite service. So if you're going to do that, you really need to team up and work with experts so that you can not only give your client the best experience and make it exceptional, it's what helps to solidify your relationship and making sure that that transaction also goes through, right? And everybody feels really good about it.
And I think the way that you not only vet, provide, and offer those resources to your client base, which is what realtors are doing at the same side, right? The right inspector, the right handyman, all those kind of components. That only increases that referral rate, which is so important, right? Like, agents are reliant upon and should be, because it's the lowest cost of, having that testimonial, that client referral, and that ambassador kind of out there speaking on their behalf, which I know I'm doing for you on the daily. Whenever I meet a woman who has a question about money, I'm like, oh, go actually speak to women who know things about money. So that entire concept of building that book of business, of your partnerships, of those other vendors, of those other professionals, really help to instill confidence in you as a leader and you as the expert of your business. And so that's a key component for, I think, agents as well, because there's so much more than just helping you make that sale or that offer. It also reminds me of something that I think you've shared before that I hear from agents all the time is, no matter how good you are, having a coach can make a big difference.
Yep.
So like, even at your level where you're a business coach, you're a money coach, you've even been seeking out the support and the insights of other coaches. Can you share a little bit about that and what that's done for your business and honestly your career growth as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a huge believer and advocate in having a coach. I mean, I had better be, since I'm telling people to hire me, but the reality is that if you want to be the best in your industry, you cannot stop learning. You have to be an active student of the game. You have to study hard. And so for me, I've always spent and invested in coaches, and they've shifted from year to year in terms of what type of coach and what that looks like. But for me, it's been critical in my growth, not just growing my business and making sure that we're keeping pace with our goals, but personally, and also helping me with things that I didn't even know I needed help with, right? And a lot of the time, a coach or someone from the outside can help you see things that you can't see. They believe in you when you don't believe in you, and they've been there before, right? You should be usually hiring someone who has been there, done that. And so a lot of the times, you're also paying for the shortcut, right? You're paying for speed. So that way you don't have to figure it out on your own in 10 years when you can do it in one, right? Because they've already done that. And for me, that's really important. And I like pulling on other people's expertise, their resources, like teach me, tell me what I need to know so that I don't screw up like that, right? I mean, shoot, I've done it enough on my own. And so now it's so great to pull from other experts. And then also, I don't know how many agents this is going to resonate with, probably a lot, but I also have a tendency to need like a babysitter, right? Like,
Yeah.
I am a visionary. I'm go. I'm doing all these things. I have all these ideas, but like in my office, everybody says yes, right? Yes. Okay. Nobody tells me no. Nobody calls me out on my BS and or holds me accountable. And that's another like layer to having a coach, like to force you to do the things that will move the needle, but you don't necessarily want to do or prioritize because they're uncomfortable and they force you to be a little stretchy. And so if I know I'm paying someone to do this for me or to help me, I am more likely to execute. And that's what makes a difference.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I look at this as every agent as a CEO, right? And so you get into real estate more often than not is to, be your own boss, make your own schedule, have that flexibility, but that can also lead to, down a rabbit hole of like not really having structure. And if you're someone who thrives on it and kind of like can find yourself not really knowing what the day should look like, you think about time blocking or you think about some other time management techniques. If you're not following that structure and no one's even asking you or pushing you to do so, man, you can flounder pretty easily, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of a wild one. And that coaching concept is where you're actually saying, okay, I've paid for this, right? Kind of like a more expensive than your $20 gym membership. Because if you're only paying $20, you might not go. But if you have an investment like that in yourself, you tend to show up. And I think that's something where when we look at recession proofing, and you're actually thinking about, okay, I should pull back spending. But the truth is sometimes it's the time to invest, either in your business, in yourself, and it might seem counterintuitive, right? That can kind of actually be something where people are like, oh, but everyone tells you like budget or pull back or things like that. Walk through that because sometimes the investment in a time where others are pulling back dollars can actually create opportunity. So when you're looking at this, from a financial perspective, I'm sure you have clients that are saying, oh, maybe I should hold on to my cash, right? I'm going to stop investing. I want to pull back a little bit. I need to make sure I have the reserves I need. So share with me a little bit of some of that advice you share with others when it's about investing in a time of contraction, we'll say, or something else.
Yeah. So there's a couple of pieces to that, right? And the first is you definitely want to look at everything that you're doing on the personal side, on the professional side, and lean out. And so making sure you're definitely understanding where your money is going and living below your means. So cut out all the bullshit, guys, like the stuff that's not intentional, you don't need, like extra subscriptions, like all that little stuff really adds up. So take inventory of everything and audit that, number one. Number two, though, and speaking to a lot of what you're saying, Kiara, is the fact that when people hear recession, and everybody pays attention to the headlines, often they get fearful, they freeze up and seize, and they pull back on the very thing that they need to move forward with. And that is marketing. It is telling themselves, we're heading into recession, my business is going to slow. No, like just because we're heading into recession doesn't mean business is going to slow, but it will slow if you tell yourself that. And so it's being mentally tough and resilient as well. And that may sound woo-woo, but I promise you our thoughts matter. And you are the only person determining whether or not you're going to slow down. And so you want to think about that. And so where can you double down and do what your competition won't do? And
Right.
so that means doing what you're excellent at. That means investing when your competition's not investing. And when I say investing in yourself. The number one thing, and this is actually coming from Warren Buffett. Everybody knows who that is, right? He's a pretty smart dude. Um, Warren Buffett said, if you're going to do anything in a recession or a depression, you better invest in yourself. You
Mhm.
better acquire skills that you don't have, and you better learn how to do things your peers don't know how to do. And so, in that way, you are going to come out of this light years ahead of everybody else. And chances are, depending on who you are and what you're doing, you might gobble up other people around you too. And what I mean by that is there will be people who quit, right?
Right. Totally.
And you're going to take that market share because you're the one who isn't afraid. You're the one who's charging ahead, and you're believing in yourself and getting that coaching or education that you need to excel, and then making sure that you're paying attention to your marketing. I think we discredit how much power we have to grow our market share in referrals and clients by our organic reach. And so, an interesting statistic that I read a little bit ago, and this is important, I think, for everybody to hear, is that if you want to have the same activity that you're having in a normal year, a non-recessionary year, you want to keep that activity flowing in a recession year, you need to ramp up the number of people you're touching times 7. So you want to pay attention to your circles, your contacts, who you're talking to. Don't get lazy, right? Put yourself out there and make sure that you're really doing that, because it's easy to pull back. It's easy to make excuses and point a finger, when truth is, this is a beautiful time to capture so much opportunity and growth.
I'm sitting here not only actively listening to you, but also thinking about who you are and the business that you run. And to me, Nicholle, it's so empowering to hear some of the things you're saying, but then to look back at the last like 18 months of what you've accomplished. And so for folks that aren't really familiar with you, one of the things that you did last year was you invested in yourself and your business, and you worked with a PR company to get on tons of different podcasts, right? Like you were just out there on other folks' podcasts, getting out, touching 7 more people, every day, right? Exponentially growing. And then in the last year, you've started your own podcast that is really starting to gain some traction. So I look at this as like you honed a skill that you might not have been shaping before. Then you've been able to kind of make this your own. And also now you have more people to invite that are these great experts, incredible leaders. And it's just another marketing platform for yourself that's doesn't happen overnight, right? Like this is a constant investment in the marketing of your business, of your platform, and of who you are. And what I love about it, because I listen, and so you have one recently on owning your zone of genius, right?
Yes.
Which is like such a cool topic. It's so important because you just mentioned this. You're saying when you invest in yourself and you focus on what you do best, you then outpace your competition because they can't touch you when you really start to focus in on that niche yourself. And that to me is that owning your zone of genius, right? So tell me a little bit about how you've discovered yours, you're helping others discover theirs, because it's something that, agents might think I help sell and buy homes. No, there's so much more to that, right? And so like owning and being empowered on what you're great at is a difficult task for many people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so there's a couple parts to that. And I think number one is owning your zone of genius is recognizing what you do better than anybody else, what you love doing, what lights you up, what lights you on fire, and then also recognizing your zone of competence. And if you are of a growth mindset, you want to make sure that the majority of your time is focused on your zone of genius and that you are hiring help for everything else. Because if you are making, in agents, shoot, it could be thousands of dollars per hour, but let's just say your average rate is a few $100 an hour, right? If you're doing $25 an hour work, you are losing money, even though it feels like you're saving money because you're doing it yourself. So I want you to think about that and really shift your thinking, because how many bottlenecks do you have in your business in your day? And if you hire help, how can you leverage that time better to grow your business and actually make more money? So that's critical, and really honing in on your zone of genius. And then as a realtor, just like myself, like I am also my personal brand, right? I am my personal brand. And so another thing that I talk about all the time is the fact that I hear the excuse of, well, there's so many realtors, there's so many other, people, and there's a ton of competition and it's really hard. And I kind of chuckle at that, because like, I'm a financial advisor. What? Like what? There's like one on every freaking corner, and there's like tons of like people every like, of course, there's always going to be competition. But here's the deal. The second you start focusing on the competition is the second you start losing. You need to start focusing on you and why you're better, because the reason you don't have competition is because you're you. So showing up as your authentic self in speaking to that and being consistent and showing up every day, and not only showing how good you are as a realtor or your level of expertise in the market and how you are able to get a higher price for your seller or a lower price for your buyer, but more importantly, people fall in love with your personality, how you relate to them, how they trust you on that personal level too. And so I think it's so important to also just be authentic and represent who you are the same way everywhere you show up. Right.
Right.
It really helps you spider web your relatability, your referability, and the ability for you to have that consistent presence. And your zone of genius should be connecting and networking in real estate, right? And then everything else is finding the other people to really crush the things that you don't love or you're not good at.
Right. No, I think that's really important when I think about so many agents I work with every day, and they're like, not really great at using a CRM, right? Like managing their client base in a database or marketing and social media. It's like, you don't have to be. Get someone else to do that for you. There are so many people out there that is their zone of genius, right? There's students that are in college that would love to take on your marketing, your social media approach, all of those things. Like, you don't have to do that. You have to be authentic and have be with your clients, have those moments captured, be comfortable capturing them yourself so that you can leverage later. But the truth is, like, that doesn't need to be your skill set. And if you try and do everything, you're going to half-ass it all, right? Like, focus on the client base, focus on what you do best. And knowing that those are key components to your business, just go and find the right people to do it for you. The same way that you can't be a home inspector, you have to go find the right person to do that for you, right? And to help your clients. And I think some people get very stifled by the things they're not good at when it comes to growing a business. And it ends up taking away the time and the revenue generating activities, right? That are that day to day. And so I think that's where, learning and understanding that kind of zone of geniusness is making sure you're not doing things you're not good at and admitting it, right? Which sometimes admitting it is the hardest part.
Oh, sure it is. And some of us are like control freaks, right? Like right here, and want to do it all, control it all, because nobody can do it better than us, and but the reality is like, you are very much holding yourself back, right? And so just being cognizant of that, and sometimes just doing the exercise, writing it all down, will really help you see like, oh, I didn't realize like this is the person I should hire, the first strategic person to help you get to that next level.
Yeah. And I think having the team, taking the time, as you mentioned, writing it out, those are super tactical components when you're looking at it. And I think there's a lot of agents on the call today that are either should have or are in the midst of planning for 2023, right? And so they're doing this as the CEO of their business. They're trying to look ahead. They're trying to navigate that volatile economy, not knowing, will I have the same amount of deals? Will I have lower home values? So I have to sell more homes. When you think about how you sit down to structure your 2023 business plan for your businesses, right? Like, what are some of those key tactics you're thinking of? What are some of the advice that we could provide to agents today that are looking ahead at 2023?
So one of the things that I'm doing is I look at all of our financials and the numbers, and making sure that I'm being extra cautious. So having a little bit more on reserve just in case things shift or change. I definitely want to make sure I'm set up and prepared for that. I'm leaning out. So I'm paying attention to everything that we're spending on and what's moving the needle and what's not. And so if it's extra, if it's not really necessary, I'm putting that on pause or getting rid of it. And then the things that do move the needle or give a good return on my investment or the ROI, I'm keeping that, and I might be doubling down on it. And so, really looking at, my marketing efforts, like what we're doing there. I'm not giving that up because my competition is, right? I'm going to probably spend more on that, do more with that to reach more people and be able to widen the bandwidth that we have and who we're looking at. And then I'm also looking at how resilient is our business, and what do people want right now, and what are they afraid of, and how can we provide those solutions? So I want to make sure that we're forward looking, not looking at what was, but moving forward. Where's the market going, and how can we be the solution for what's needed? And do we need to tweak parts of our business? Are there parts of our business that we can let go because it's not really serving us or not making us a ton of money? And then what are our revenue streams? So making sure that we're remaining diversified in that regard as well, so that in the instance of this year, for example, market's down, my income is based off the market, kids. So I want to make sure that I've got other income streams, which we've done and set up over the years. So that way we're still up, right? We're still up, we're still ahead, because we're working really hard and making sure that we have that business that's able to pivot and jive with not only the current market conditions, but where business is headed. So I think that's important for anybody to take into consideration and just audit, like where you are now, where things are going, and then how are you going to be the solution for your clients. And then speak about the fears head on. Don't let it be the elephant in the room. Like, address it, be head on, give a ton of education, be that resource, be extra loud, be extra present. And then when the timing comes, you're going to be top of mind.
Yeah, I think that's a huge component is, again, removing the elephant out of the room, calling it out with your clients, but also starting to recognize, as you look at the grand scheme of your business, is your clients may change, right? That demographic and what people are looking for will shift as the economy changes or shifts. And you mentioned earlier, like that growth mindset. So to me, that's so important, where people see this as a challenge. Great agents will see this as an opportunity every day, because you might lose out on that residential, that couple that are looking for their first home. For some, home buyers might drop, but this is a prime time to work with investors. So if you're strategizing for 2023, it's like, how are you networking in this new space that might not have been, your comfort zone for the last few years? How the hell do you break out of comfort knowing this is my biggest opportunity? There are people out there that will take advantage of homes that are sitting on the market longer, and we can buy up, and I can make myself a trusted advisor to them by working through that process. So, I think let's talk a little bit about like growth mindset, seeing opportunity where others see obstacles, because I think as you look at, moving forward, you've come at it with the right mindset and framework of saying, I've got to have multiple streams of income. I've got to be diversified. But for folks that are saying, okay, I've always sold homes, it doesn't mean that you can't diversify that business structure. Homes are still going to sell. It's not going to stop. But you need to almost change and shift your own mindset there, right?
Yeah, and even so, let's say you're that realtor you've just been selling, a certain market of homes, right? Perhaps you need to dig in and learn a lot about investors, a lot about what they're looking for, and expand your market. So now you've got another stream that you are now known as an expert in, and that you can do, right? And maybe now looking into multi-unit or commercial property, or working with investors to buy multiple properties at once, or rehab. So taking a look at your industry, your niche, your core market, and what that looks like. And then, or you may have other skill sets that you can capitalize on in your industry, but not necessarily are specifically selling homes too. So you may want to look at that. Are you doing consulting? So maybe you can start consulting with individuals in terms of how to make their property value higher. Like, what are the things they need to do? What are the things they need to leave out? They might not be ready to sell for 3 years, but you can make money consulting them, become that trusted person. And by the way, you're going to be in business for the next 3 years, right? So you're always going to need that income stream. Can you coach other individuals? Do you need to grow your team and have other realtors on your team, so you've got an income stream that way? Maybe you're doing staging. Maybe, there's just so many different ways that within your industry you can grow your network, but also have those other income streams to help you remain relevant, but then also steady your cash flow.
No, 100%. The growing of a team is one of the number one ways I think realtors fool themselves into not doing that next step to growing their business. They almost get, too concerned about, oh, maybe I'm always growing my lead sources. I don't have enough to give to someone else, but you have your own skills to mentor others. It's not about giving them a lead. They can still join with you because you have value. And now you have, again, that kind of passive income as they continue to grow underneath your tutelage, right? Like that team aspect also allows you to, you and the personal brand to be in more places than one, which is huge. And you can't do that in many businesses. So it's one where you can start to take advantage of an opportunity of kind of bringing others in, and also that coaching, that mentoring yourself. And I think most realtors have had someone who's hopefully shown them the way, because that's how the industry typically works, and you get a little bit better. But that's really a critical component of finding the right people, as we talked about, like vetting that, to make sure that you're not just hiring someone good, you're looking for great. That can be difficult. And I feel like that's a unique skill in and of itself, is like reading people, but having to do that with your clients every day, it's something that should start to come comfortably to others. But I think as you're building teams, that can really help outpace competition, right? So when you started to take on, new folks into your company as you've grown, like what are some of those quality characteristics that you find have been game changers? Because the right person can help propel your business, the wrong person can really make a mess of things.
Sure can muck it up. So one of the things is that I'm really self-aware, and I know what I'm very good at, and I know what I'm not. And so when hiring my team, I wanted to be certain that I was bringing on people who are brilliant and smarter than me in areas that I am not. And so that is number one, is I wanted that ability for them to be really complementary of myself. And then second to that is for them to be self-starters and for them to be able to figure it out. And so I am the visionary. I tell them exactly what I see, what I want to see happen. And it's actually their job to go figure it out.
Right.
But it's my job as the leader to empower them, to give them that confidence and authority to know that they can in fact figure it out. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
So with that, like in growing the team, like I've tried to do the best job I can to not manage them, but to lead them and give them the confidence and the courage to know that they are brilliant. I need them on my team because they're so good at what they do. But in doing that and instilling that belief, they were able to figure it out and take the ball and run with it. And they're not afraid to give me their input, to give me their feedback, to give me their ideas, which in truth is so powerful, because I also am so receptive to that feedback, because I don't have all the ideas. I don't have all the thoughts. And so in having that really good collaborative relationship, I think has held so much power and really has made our team so nimble and strong and well connected, because we're always able to operate in that capacity.
No, I love that. I think the hardest thing I think for an agent to hear on this call is like finding people that are great at things that you don't know enough about. Because, in real estate, you're trying to be that expert. But I think that's where that conversation we're having about, like, if you're not good at running a database, if you're not good at marketing, someone who is great at that might have that aspiration to get into real estate, but might still have that skill set or be willing to learn and be, stronger organizationally than you. So it doesn't necessarily need to be someone who's as great or good as an agent and high producing. It can be someone who's, motivated to grow into that type of role, but in the short term has some of those skills that do complement what your business needs. I can see we've made a few other people some speakers here, so we can start questions for Nicholle. So if anyone has one that might be on your mind, you're looking into 2023, you're nervous, you're unsure of where to go, the market has you a little bit scared, your clients are starting to drop out. I have to imagine this is happening to many of you. So feel free, we'll open it up so that you guys can ask some questions if you have some. Well, Brandon Thompson's on this call with us, and he was a financial advisor, has a past in financial work. So I'm happy that he's on today's call with us. He even said to me earlier this week, he goes, even I can learn new things all the time. So I love it. We all can. Awesome. Yes. Yeah.
Can't believe you just said that.
It's true. Come on. You know that, Brandon.
I only did 25 years.
And then you got into real estate. So you saw the point of diversification still matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it's, never mind, I can't say that on all these people. Yeah, you're right.
Nicholle, I think one of the key things I'm excited to chat with you about in the future state for other agents are retirement planning for agents, which is completely different than a normal 9-to-5 job with a corporate America. So that's something that I think agents need to be taking advantage of, but not everyone is giving them an education about. So that's a key component that I feel like if anybody has questions about those as well, Nicholle is absolutely an expert in all these key areas. So feel free. You've got an amazing resource at your fingers. I'm surprised Jeffrey doesn't have any questions for us. He usually will pepper them in.
Quiet crew.
I know. Well, it's also early on the West Coast. It's before 9 a.m. for many people.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's fair.
Yeah. Well, great. So Nicholle, while we're waiting for anyone to pop in with a question, I want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about some of the coaching programs that you offer. I think that's really critical. I know there's one spot left for January, right? Is that correct? Still, I wasn't sure. I know we talked about it earlier in the week.
Yeah, so we from the PowHerhouse Company, I run a mastermind group. It's a business coaching group. We run it twice a year. It's a year-long program and industry exclusive. We do have one spot left. This is actually the only, and I'm not just saying this because of the call that I'm on, but this is the first mastermind group that I've had that I don't have a realtor on, which is
I was just
very
gonna ask,
great.
like, are realtors normally? I know it's mostly like
They
entrepreneurs, CEOs,
Yeah.
that type of thing, but realtors are typically in there too.
Yes, yeah, I've had a realtor every single mastermind group that I've launched since we started, and a lot of times they are a leader of a team, not always, but typically, and that's what we're helping them with in terms of like cultivating the leadership and the growth and becoming more profitable, and also how to not work yourself to death because you don't need to work a bazillion hours to be more successful. I think sometimes that is a bit of a disconnect there. So. But our mastermind group is starting January. We do have one spot left, and it is really this incredible, intense, intimate group business coaching where we are giving you all of the tools, the support, the accountability that you truly need to hit all of your business goals over the next year. And then you've got the community as well. So I know that sometimes we can feel as an entrepreneur really lonely or nobody else gets it, right? So sometimes it's nice to be in that room with other peers who are sharing that same frequency that you're on. So that's the business coaching program that we're doing.
Love it. I'm excited for you. And what do you think is one of the key, I don't want to say takeaways, but like that outcome for realtors, like outside of just becoming a better leader, have you seen them have that increased growth when it comes to home sales? Like, what does that look like? Because I have to imagine that's something that people would be curious about.
So one thing that we work a lot on is productivity, time management, delegation. So in the one woman that I'm working with now, she's one of the top brokers in the area, but she's running herself into the ground, like literally running herself into the ground. She's a single mom and she's working all these crazy wonky hours because she just doesn't know how to delegate. And so we're working on that and then working on her confidence to do that, but then all the systems that we need to put in place to make it easy so that way who she's delegating to understands it and it's like a quick repeatable process. We're working on automating a lot of the things that we're doing, making more consistent processes for her marketing and cultivating her marketing, going up market, and then giving her the ability to train her agents to make their process the exact same as her process for some of the smaller properties that she doesn't want to necessarily spend her time on. But what she's finding is that there were a lot of gaps that she didn't realize until she started asking better questions. And so that's the other thing is sometimes we make too many assumptions and think that our team is doing what we want them to do when in truth they're not, or they forgot. And this is true for even some very seasoned veteran realtors. We just forget the basics, and forget the things that work and the things that shift the needle. And now that we are heading into this time that will inevitably be more challenging, those basics are really going to matter. And so really managing all of those different variables. And so and she's taken a vacation already. It's only been 6 months.
Okay.
She's taken a vacation and her profits are up and she's grown her team by 2 people. So it's been a really cool journey so far.
That's great. That makes a big difference. Being able to take a vacation as a realtor, typically you're always working, right? You're still on your foot. It's one of those things, and it's really taking the time because if you can't put yourself first and get that moment, you won't be able to serve your clients, right? Like you just start to fall apart. You mentally can't do this, and especially coming into the holidays, it sounds like that's probably the best case scenario for her is to be able to have that scalability within her business, and that's huge with confidence, 100%. What's coming up next on the podcast for 2023? What are you most excited about?
So, well, we've got some really cool interviews that we've recorded with phenomenal entrepreneurs who have really been able to do a tremendous job, not only growing their business, but growing their business with impact. So I'm really excited to share those interviews. And then I am working on some solo podcasts where I'm going to be talking about business, but then also the reality behind the success. So a lot of the things that are just real life struggles and things that we go through, we're more alike than we are different, things that I've been through, and then hopefully being able to allow those listening to pull out of that some really great tips.
Awesome.
Hey, Kiara,
Yeah.
I had a quick question.
Go for it.
Well, first of all, first and foremost, thank you very much for your time this morning. You provided a lot of timely information for everyone. Question being, how do you see most agents structuring their business under the guise of an LLC, an S corporation, et cetera?
So we have a lot of agents doing LLCs just from a separation of liability, but the agents who are profitable enough where it makes sense, they're doing S corps. So it is definitely an accounting question. What I will say is that your accountant is not likely going to suggest it, excuse me. Most of them do not. We have to ask them the question to run the numbers. And so be proactive, be an advocate to say, hey, does it make sense for me to file as an S corp this year? It takes a little bit of time, but for those agents who are producing relatively high numbers and they are profitable, it does make sense to be an S corp. It saves you a lot of money in taxes, and it's not that complicated. I know sometimes there's this fear around I have to do payroll, and I have, it's really quite simple, and payroll's not scary either. You can tell your payroll team, or if your CPA runs payroll, you can run one payroll a month, and it can be different every single month. So don't get hung up on the fact that your income is variable and fluctuates. That's okay. But the idea is to do things more efficiently and really keep more money in your pocket.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And the last one, what's the number one stock I should be buying right now?
I can't tell you that, Brandon. You know that.
Just kidding.
But look for look for companies with good cash flow, companies that are strong, that you believe will be here in the next 5 years, because there really are a ton of terrific markets to buy. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much. I was thinking radius, but okay, thanks.
Well, you can't buy us yet, but you can surely start earning your stock options with us. So I think that's a great opportunity for diversification. I love that, Brandon. Thanks for the setup and the spike. Any other questions on the call today?
Hi, Nicole. I have a question for you.
Great.
I was curious, kind of, what is the most common question you get from realtors around this time, or what is the best piece of advice you can give them?
So the most common question I get is, what the heck do I do? Realtors are notorious for waiting until the last minute, not tracking anything throughout the year. So what I would encourage all of you to do is number one, keep it simple, right? So if you are not yet an LLC or an S corp, I would encourage you to actually have still separate accounts and operate as if you were a separate entity. Because what that will do is it will make your life a lot easier. So have one checking account where your commission check goes into, your commission check goes out of, and then that account also, all of your real estate expenditures and transactions. Use one credit card for only your realtor business. Use one credit card for everything else. Again, keep your math simple so you're not going back, this whole year and like tallying all these receipts. And, how many of you remember what you did yesterday, let alone all year? So really important to do that. But a great tactic for December is to start getting your numbers together, really, and knowing where you stand. How much did you spend? How much did you make? What were your expenses, so that you really know what you're up against tax-wise too, especially for those of you who may be newer and made a lot this year. You have to, if you haven't been paying quarterlies, you don't want that big surprise. So now you have some time to do some planning with your accountant and be prepared for next year. This is also the last year is part of that COVID program where you can fully tax deduct your meals and entertainment. So that's another thing to be cognizant of and what you're doing there, and just making sure you're saving your receipts. And then if you haven't been moving forward, I always recommend like weekly money dates. So it takes a couple of minutes, where you stand, you're recording everything and doing a better job of tracking everything. So that way it's cleaner, but then you also know what you stand and it's working, right? So I hope that is helpful from a very high level overview there.
No, I think that's the huge takeaway is like have one credit card for all of your real estate work expenses, all of it. if you mingle that with, you know, your vacation time, your friends that you're going out to eat with, and you're thinking like, oh, maybe I will remember, won't remember who was that expense or what that was, like, you're just messing around with actual brain space you don't need to. I know I have it on my checklist from you. I was like, all right, Kiara needs 2 more credit cards because Nicholle told me these things need to be separate. And I was like, all right, that's a 2023 problem. But that's different than agents who are out there marketing, spending their subscriptions. If they're all coming off your same home Netflix account, credit card, like, you're just making a mess of things and you don't need to. It's so easy to take that extra moment and just plan to separate the components so that your financial work at the end of the year, quarterly or monthly, can be 1,000 times easier for you. So I love that. That's a smart thing that I would never think about doing myself until you tell me to, and then I do the things you say because it's in my best interest. This is why having a coach and the right team to support you makes a huge impact on your business and day to day. Great question, Christy. Anybody else have a question on the call before we wrap up here today? Amazing. Well, what we're going to do today is send out some extra information to those of you that are on the call, those of you that registered, so that you can learn a little bit more about some of the different programs, tools that are available. I know your website has some like understanding or finding like your money persona, right, Nicholle? Like, that's an important one for just being able to know what type of relationship you have with money before you get started on figuring out the next step in your journey. So I think that's going to be a great one. We'll shoot people over to your website for Wilcox Financial and PowHerhouse Coaching. And I can't thank you enough for joining our call today. This is a lot of fun. I love chatting with you and I always learn more. So I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks again for hopping on today. Everyone have a fantastic day and get started on your 2023 planning. Talk to you soon. Cheers.